Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to have you all with us today. Thank you for joining us. I want to address two big issues in today's podcast, and I think it's really important. And the first one we're going to talk about, or the first one I'm going to tell you we're going to talk about, is looking at this year's money players. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, maybe you're new to the podcast or new to my reporting. In the NFL, you have expectations of rookies, obviously, and where that rookie is selected, it raises expectations of performance, which is fair and totally germane. But your first year, you have expectations, but to reasonable people and to people around the world of professional football, those are tempered based on the player and the situation. So, for example, when Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels made the decision to take Tyree Wilson, they looked at last year as getting him healthy. They knew he was not going to be healthy at the beginning, and I told you all of that. That's what I love about the digital age. You can go back and see all the podcasts and reporting back from around the draft. At that, the year for him was hoping at the end of the year he would be much healthier and starting to flash. They had people like Malcolm Kuntz who they hoped to take a step because it was his money year, and Chandler Jones. Now, we all know how the year went out and ended, but it's obviously expectation based upon where, but also expectations on player health, whatever. Year two is when you want to see a little bit of consistency. You want to start to see, again, the expectations start where the players picked or the circumstance. But in year two, you want to start to see, some more contributions, seeing some type of stepping up. But in year three, it's what they call the money year. It is the year where, okay, after this year, we pretty much know what we got in a guy. And did he step up and earn his money, meaning the vision towards his second contract? That's why it's called the money year. So we're going to look at those players, not the reserve futures or those that are on the injured list. But we're going to look just at the roster. Um, and we'll come back and talk about those other players at another time. But we're going to talk about the money players today. But we're going to start with an article that was written yesterday by Zeke Trezevant, who does a tremendous job, absolutely tremendous job for us here at Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, and our Raiders Today coverage. Does a terrific job. And it was about cautioning Raiders about moving up for a quarterback. Now, nothing stirs conversation like quarterback talk in the National Football League. And I accept that. That's completely fair. It's the most important position in football. But when you set yourself aside from it emotionally and you look at it purely tactically and you look at it for what it is as a position, then you begin to look at analytics and you begin to look at research. It begins to tell you a story. It begins to paint for you a picture. And I want to cite some research done. This is by um, Jim Sargent from the USA Today. This article was written back in April of 23, and it went all the way back to the 99 draft. And his research came out and said 60% of first round quarterbacks turned out not being a long-term answer for their team. Okay, other research, such as QB List, says that less than 50% of first-round quarterbacks ever hit a simple benchmark of 4,000 yards or 24 TDs, less than 50%. And again, that matches the 60% the Sargent talked about. You can certainly make an argument. There have been multiple great quarterbacks picked in the first round. Nobody is denying that because you'd be a fool to do it. But you could also make the argument that 60% or certainly less than 50% don't turn out to be a long-term answer. And so I want to go back. You may remember the inventor of the modern draft board was a man named Hank Bulla. Talked about him in the past. He was the defensive coordinator when Johnny Unitas' Colts won the Super Bowl. He went on, invented the draft board, and was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He invented the draft board. And Hank often, by the way, Hank happened to be a very close personal friend of mine. I'm still very close to his children and his grandchildren. You may remember his grandson Riley back on when the Buccaneers were on HBO's Hard Knocks. He was the guy that was called Joe Dundirt, the long-haired linebacker. His grandson, Max Bulla, tremendous college linebacker, played in the NFL, who's now coach at Notre Dame, on the staff at Notre Dame, a defensive coach. So when you look at what Hank started and what has now become perfected in the NFL, you begin to notice value. Now, I have shared this with you before, and I'll share it with you again. The best teams aren't wagering their future. Now, hear me out, because this is going to come around. I'm not against picking a quarterback in the first round. So please hear this out. But there's a reason. I mentioned you before. I had a general manager say to me one time, there's a reason certain teams are always picking at the top. It's because they're not good drafters. The best teams understand the value of the draft, and I can't wage my future. So what happens is you see a lot of people, we got to move up and get a quarterback, got to move up and get a quarterback, got to move up and get it. Well, there's no guarantee that when you move up, that quarterback is going to possess value. Remember, it's less than 50%. And in the Sargent research, it's 60% of quarterbacks. I'll read it to you again. 60% of first-round quarterbacks aren't the long-term answer for their team that picks them. So it's not just moving up. It's not a magic pill. In fact, statistics tell you a first-round quarterback has a better percentage chance of being a failure than being a success. So when you move up, what you're doing is you're giving away your future to move up for something that's a crapshoot. Now, not against it, but you have to know the guy I'm getting is a can't miss. If I'm willing to trade my future for my now, I have better be sold. Now, at this moment, right now, I don't believe Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce have made a decision about, is there anybody worth mortgaging the future? Do I think there are guys that they absolutely have their eyes on? 100%. That's their job, to constantly be evaluating, is this person worth my future? If I don't think I can get them at 13, what will it cost me to move up? And then how sure am I? Because you don't get a whole lot of chances to make a second pick like that. That's reality. And so if you look, so for example, I don't cover college football. Do I watch it? Sure, I do. But I don't cover it enough to, there are some guys that I noticed, and I'm just now starting to watch film on some guys. But most of my opinions on guys are having just watched, I haven't dug enough. But what I do pay attention to is obviously the Raiders are going to do all their due diligence. We know that. But what I do pay attention to is not my opinion. What am I hearing from scouts? What am I hearing from other NFL teams and analysts that I trust? Now, remember, We're going to be bringing somebody on who professionally is an analyst that looks at quarterbacks to get their opinions on things. Okay, so let's talk about Caleb Williams. And I'm only going to use Caleb just for the sake of this argument. I am hearing from NFL people there are major concerns. Now, I was hearing this, and I've been sharing this with you going back into the season. Okay. I've not seen enough from Caleb to make that decision. That's not Hondo's opinion. That's what I've heard from multiple different people. Number one. Number two, you also know that it's the football season, and there are some people who purposely disseminate improper information. That's factual. So I rely on people who I trust, people who've given me great information in the past, and people who I believe are honorable and not simply trying to sway narrative. Okay. So when I talk to people like that and I'm hearing what concerns about Caleb Williams, I share that with you. I don't have them yet. I haven't spent enough time. I will, but I still trust them since exponentially more than me. Do I trust Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco? Uh-huh. I trust any general manager and coach at this level to have a higher opinion than me. And they still only get 40% correct. So then not only do I listen to people that I respect, I look at people who have a track record of being analytically correct. I have one friend who's a scout that's been a part of a couple of organizations that have drafted quarterbacks very well. He was very high on the quarterbacks selected by his team, the two that he's been a part of. Okay. Who gave me his information before the draft. I listen to them. Why? Track record of success. I have other scouts that have been very successful with running backs. I have other scouts that have been very successful with linemen. I listen to those people. And so sometimes there is the narrative, oh, we got to move up to get this quarterback. And I think it's imperative to show discipline and say, okay, first you have to make the decision, do you need a quarterback? Well, the Raiders do. Okay. You say, well, you're minimizing Aiden. No, I'm not. You got to have three quarterbacks in the modern NFL. You have to. And Aiden O'Connell started a bunch of games, finished his last 5 games, I think, with 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. I know it was 8 touchdowns, 0 interception his last 4. Okay. Those are legitimate. I've said before, I have seen a lot from Aiden O'Connell that makes me think he can be a QB1, a long-term QB1. I have seen some things that would say, okay, he's got to develop here before I think he is a QB1. I'm not claiming that he's Ken Stabler. First of all, I'm not claiming very many people are. That guy was phenomenal. But has he shown you enough that he still deserves for a chance to compete? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's earned that. And I don't think you give a rookie anything. So if the Raiders go pick a rookie, and I don't care who the rookie is, I think they go into camp second on the depth chart, no matter where they're picked or wherever. What if the Raiders go make a big trade? Let's talk about some of those names that are out there as a possibility. Russell Wilson was playing excellent last year. Excellent last year for the Broncos. And Sean Payton is obviously all appearances going to let him go. Okay. That name has been ballied about. Do the Raiders go get him? You can get him at a very reduced rate, a very cap friendly rate. You can sell him on a chance to compete against the Broncos twice. And you bring that guy in who was playing at a high level, tremendous man, great character, let him mentor Aiden, then maybe go select another quarterback in the later rounds to have with some mobility to develop. That's an option. Baker Mayfield is an option. Kirk Cousins is an option. Trading for a Justin Fields with 2 years left on his rookie deal. That's a significant option. So if you don't say, okay, listen, I think there's a guy here that Tom Telesco and AP said, okay, we're willing to roll our careers on. Because if they move up, which is a possibility, they're gambling with their future. Or do we like the idea that we think we've seen enough of Maiden to let him develop? Go get a rookie, go get a veteran. That's an option. It's a total option. I shared with you before about Dave Ziegler last year in the draft, threw out to Josh McDaniels. You know, what about we keep Jarrett Stidham? What about we go sign Jacoby Brissett and then go get a rookie? Okay, that was an option. There are lots of different options. And when you say, listen, the analytics and the research say getting a guy at 1 is not a guarantee at all. In fact, it's less than a guarantee. Doesn't mean that you don't do it. It just means now where your scouting staff, your general manager, your quarterback have to come into a big unity and say, are we willing to risk the future? Because we all know in the NFL, if you don't have the guy at quarterback, if you don't have that guy, you don't have a guy. I've shared this with you many times. I'll share it again. I had an NFL general manager tell me this. 8 teams in the NFL are 100% convinced their quarterback can go win them a Super Bowl. 8 teams think their quarterback might be able to go win them the Super Bowl. The other 16 are wishing that they were one of the 16 or one of really the top 8. That's where where you have to trust your own eyes as a scout and general manager. Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce. The article simply was saying you better tap the brakes a little bit. Find out what you have. Okay, I only used Caleb Williams because people are in love with his athletic talent. And let me tell you, the few times I have watched him, he has been an incredible talent. But there were a lot of people that thought that about a lot of other quarterbacks over the years who didn't pan out, who turned out being, eh. And so before you gamble away your future, before you throw it away, you better be really sure. Because if you go all in on your quarterback today and they're not it, not only have you set your franchise backwards, but now just for the immediate, you've now sacrificed your future because draft picks are precious. Now, I come from the school, draft picks are precious, and you can trade them or use them as collateral to go get the best options. But you better be convinced you have the most information. I talked with a general manager one time who said to me, his owner was really good about letting him do his job. But before he gave away draft picks, he had to sit down with his owner every time and explain, here's the risk evaluation, here's what we're giving up, and go over it all. And he said to me, my owner, and this is a very successful franchise, my owner values draft picks like babies. And he goes, he spends more time looking at where we failed in the draft than almost where we've succeeded. I thought that was a good point. So that is where the mindset of the best franchises are. If I give up draft picks, I don't care if it's for a quarterback. If I give up draft picks, am I giving up my future to pull it forward and buy my present? And how confident am I? Because very few guys get an opportunity to sell their future, to buy their present, and fail and get another opportunity to do it. Now, let's look at San Francisco. They go pick Trey Lance. There are a lot of people that thought Trey Lance was going to be a great quarterback. But when Trey Lance came out, I heard from multiple people, boy, he's talented. He's super talented. But the level of competition is a concern, which there have been great quarterbacks who've come from lesser competition. But it was at the time concern. They were concerned at a lack of playing time. I mean, Bill Parcells was adamant. He didn't want a quarterback who hadn't thrown, and I don't remember the number, I'll get it for you the next time. But for some reason, I think it was 2,500 passes. Next time John Shop's on, we'll talk about it. But he wanted a guy with a ton of experience because he believed that that minimizes the risk. Okay. I agree with Bill on that. So there were a lot of people. So they go pick Trey Lance and then pick Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant. Brock ended up being the guy. I think Brock Purdy takes a ton of criticism now that if he had been picked 3 overall, people would be praising him. But because he was Mr. Irrelevant, they dump on him because of the mindset. So again, it is important when you look at the quarterback position to understand its value and its history. Its value and its history. And then to be able to go out and ascertain, okay, is this risk worth it? Is this player worth it? Is what I'm willing to give up worth it? And that's a big risk. And when you're the Raiders and you're close, okay, how many great offensive linemen have they let go by? How many great defensive players have they let gone by? Or any team for that matter. And you build on the lines, you build there, and then you go find your quarterback. And I think it's fascinating. It's going to be interesting to watch. All right, now let's talk about some money players. Number 1, Zamir White, running back. I think Zeke showed a lot this year, but next year is the year where expectations, where he steps up. I think there's a chance, obviously, that Josh Jacobs comes back. I know that Antonio Pierce wants him, but even then, you still want to begin to see the transition to Zeke more. So it's going to be fascinating to watch with Zeke. I'm a buyer on Zeke. Zeke is, you guys may remember last offseason, I was a big buyer on Kuntz. I'm a big buyer on Zeke. I like him. I like his style. I like his personality. I like who he is as a man. I'm buying in on Zeke, but he's a guy coming into his money year. The Raiders got to get him more reps next year. Next, defensive tackle Matthew Butler. Played in 2 games in 23, but he hasn't really demonstrated anything. If he makes the roster in 2024, it's a huge money year for him. I like Matthew Butler. This isn't anything personal, but I'm not a buyer. We just haven't seen a lot from him. Could he do that? Yep. In the money year is when he wants to do it. Next, Jack Jones. Total buyer on Jack Jones. This guy played like an all-pro last year. Under the tutelage with the leadership of Patrick Graham and Antonio Pierce. I think Antonio Pierce had the relationship with him going back to high school. So he was able to keep him focused. And the leadership of Patrick Graham was phenomenal in his life. But Jack Jones and Zamir White, 2 of our first 3 money guys, I'm a buyer. I believe in those guys, both of them. Then you come to Luke Masterson, the linebacker out of Wake Forest, coming into his money year. I'm a big buyer on Masterson. I like him a lot. I like him personally a lot. Just this style. Again, him and Zamir, 2 guys, quiet, just go about their business, do their job. He has shown a lot of flashes, a lot. Now, Divine Diablo is older than him, and him and Spillane really came on, but Luke did a lot too. He's a Swiss Army knife guy. I think he has a shot at being the next Robert Spillane, but I like Masterson, and I'm buying on him in a money year. Thayer Mumford. This is a guy that's gotten, plenty of opportunity, the offensive tackle. And I know last year, their desire was for him to beat out Jermaine Illuminor, and he didn't. Jermaine held him off. And to Jermaine's credit, a lot of people felt like Jermaine deserved a bigger contract than what he got, but he was there, and it was it what it was. They were hoping Thayer would come along. Again, I think Thayer has a world of pop potential. I really like him. I think he's a guy, but this is the money year. I think the Raiders are spending a long, hard look at drafting a right tackle. In fact, I know they are. And so this is going to be a year where they know what they're going to get with Jermaine Illuminor, and the head coach is a big Jermaine Illuminor guy. This is going to be Thayer's opportunity now. He's got to step up and earn it. I think he clearly has the talent. I like him personally. I like him professionally. And it's going to be interesting to watch what he does. Then Dylan Parham. He's already a money guy. Came in, started from day one. This was the first pick by Dave Ziegler and Champ Kelly. It was a great pick. I mean, you can make the argument that Devontae was a pick, but we all know he wasn't. But Dylan Parham has been a stud. He set himself up for a long-term extension. And this is a guy coming into his money year where he's already had 2 money years in a row. He way outperformed his rookie year, way outperformed sophomore year, and now coming into his third year, he's an anchor on the offensive line. A guy you trust, a guy you believe in. He's been everything that you would hoped or wanted him to be. Another one is safety Isaiah Palamal. This is a guy who's shown a lot of flashes. I am a buyer on this kid. I think he has the potential to be extremely good. Extremely good. Now, he reminds me a lot. That's not true. He's similar to Kuntz, flying under the radar a little bit. Kuntz was flying under the radar more, but look what he did in his sophomore campaign. Excuse me, his money year campaign. Last half of the year, he's one of the best, and now he's set himself up for big money. Same way with Palmo. I think he's got the shot here. I really do. I really do. Now, last one I want to talk to you about is DJ Turner. I know you're thinking about other names. I'm going to get to those. This is just for today. What about DJ Turner? It's a wide receiver who's done some things. I don't think he's proven that the Raiders can live without him, like Butler, but he's shown some things. Now he's going to have to shine out in minicamp, going to have to shine out in OTAs if he's there. But this is why it's called a money year. He's going to have to make some money this year. Going to have to go prove some things. Now, there are other guys. This is not an exhaustive list. I'm going to get into those. Those are just the first group I want to talk about. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today for Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Thank you for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you. And remember, follow me on Instagram, Hondo SR. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenter. You can also go to si.com/NFL/Raiders for all of our articles. In the top right-hand corner, click on it, fill it out, 100% free, 100%. We don't spam you, but 3 days a week, we'll send you a email with all of our best articles. Never miss anything great about your Raiders again. So from all of us here at Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being with us today. We appreciate you. Have a good one.